Good morning from AIMA Web TV. I'm Giampiero Moncada, I'm a journalist, and here we are with two experts for talking about water resources, a global emergency. It's a topic that, of course, everybody knows, not deeply, but everybody knows. Well, here on my right, Professor Attilio Toscano. He is professor in University of Bologna, agriculture hydraulic. Yes, it's in English correct? Okay, all right. On my left, Jacopo Fratus De Balestrini. He is vice president of AssoIdrotech. That is an association of producers of technology, machinery, that of course are useful for hydric problems. All right, now we are going to talk with them both. But we can begin from the professor. Well, before to hear the experts, I'd like to introduce this topic, because we all know the expression global water resources. We know it's an emergency. But exactly what does it mean? Not everybody knows. So I have some numbers that I can resume in a few minutes. According to the report from United Nations, the world could face a 40% water shortage by 2030. It's less than 10 years. Due to global warming and increased consumption. Okay. The same report points out that some 4 billion people already now live in conditions of severe physical water scarcity for at least 1 month a year due to water stress. And ongoing climate change, we talk every day about climate change, is likely to cause variations in seasonal availability through the year and in different locations. But other numbers I found are very interesting. By 2050, I mean almost 30 years from now, 24 million people will have no access to drinking water, and 1.4 billion no access to basic sanitation if the current situation continues. Well, now we have research, now we have politics, and we have industry that try to solve these problems. I think we could begin from the university. Professor Toscano, of course, the problems, we hear about the problems every day, but when can we hear about solutions?
Thank you very much. Good evening, good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure for me. And of course, the problem you said is very well known, but the solutions are different. There is no a unique solution. The solution is case by case. For sure, climate change is affecting now the water availability, and the problem is that this water availability was affected by climate change in a manner completely different as in the past. This year in Italy, the main problems related to water scarcity was in the northern part of Italy, in this area, not in the southern part. So this is the reason why this area were not ready to solve this problem and to fight against with this problem. And now we realized that this change is not a single event, it's not an emergency. We should be ready to to tackle these events like the normal case. And the problem is not at all the global total annual availability of water, that in some cases is the same as in the past. But the problem is the period of the rain occurring in very short period and different like usual.
You mean it is concentrated in a few
yes,
weeks?
the rains is concentrated, and often when it is so concentrated, we have the opposite problem, so floods, that is another problem. And we don't have also, together with rain, we don't have this year not snow. And without snow in the Alps, in the mountain, we have no flow in the rivers. So I think that for sure universities, researchers are doing a lot of research. I will talk maybe a little bit more later in detail about the water saving methods, and the industries, probably we will know later, are very well advanced in this. So irrigation methods, so precise, so effective to save water. And this is for sure one of the directions to be followed to solve the problem. But I believe that more other research and innovation, we need also to change our mind in terms of infrastructures. So infrastructures means we have to increase the resilience of our infrastructure. So resilience means water schemes, infrastructure schemes that are interconnected, and we have to increase also the number of dam, basin, to collect water when it is, and to use it in the period of droughts. And the problem is that the areas, such this area, that are not so ready to do this, because we are in the area with the main river of Italy, the Po River, with a continuous flow. This year, but also 3 years ago, it's not so new, was with the water level never occurred in the past. And this was a problem mainly for agriculture, for sure for irrigation. So I believe that, in few words, the solution is to combine innovation in the irrigation methods at the farm level, for sure. And we are in the right place, in my opinion. I have seen a lot of innovation here in the exhibition. But together, we have also to work on the water planning, not only at farm level, but at district or at basin level. And to do this, we should have more resilient infrastructures to do this. And of course, we have two levels of problem. One about the producers and the farmers, for sure, and the other at political level, to again start a policy that consider water the first problem for not only the economy, the agriculture, but also for the life.
You mean, Professor, that the politics is involved because of the investment, because private industry cannot invest so much money without support from the public?
Yes, for sure. It depends about the countries, for sure. But usually, water infrastructures need a lot of money, a lot of funds, and these investments cannot be done by private sector or not by the private sector alone. So the government has to invest in these infrastructures. Italy, for example, start again to invest public money on this since a couple of years.
They are doing now?
Yes, we are doing with also the recovery plan from European Union after pandemic. Lot of money are devoted to water and water infrastructures, both in terms of new efficiency for the water networks, also in the farm and in the agriculture, that are investments made by Ministry of Agriculture, as well as investments for big infrastructures, dams, completion of irrigation schemes, water schemes, and so on.
Excuse me, Professor. Here in AIMA we have a lot of journalists, of course, of visitors too, from all over the world. Many ones from Far East, from USA, from American continent. So I'm not sure they all know what PNRR is.
Oh, sorry. PNRR is a recovery plan issued by European Commission, European Union after pandemics, and to help European countries to recover from the problem of COVID. And a lot of investments are being doing now thanks to this huge amount of money that the European Commission make available for specific countries.
Very well. And now, of course, this was the voice from the university. I mean research, I mean politics. No profit, but industry.
Yeah.
And industry is, of course, involved, but as we said, as the professor said, private companies cannot invest so much to solve the problem of water resources. So your members, the companies that are members of your association, who are the customers of them?
So let's say that there is one common factor, so that in order to grow crops, we need water. Water is the most important factor, and in order to have the product, to increase the productivity, to increase the yield of the fields that our farmers irrigate. And as industry, I represent the industry, we need to give a part of the replies to this problem by producing technology that can optimize the use of this important resource. So that this is what we do with our association that represents the producer of irrigation. We are talking about different type of irrigation, I mean drip irrigation, pivot irrigation, hose reel irrigation, so different type of machines, but with a common goal to make the technology the best in order to save water and use only the quantity of water that is really necessary for the field. That is, let's say, the main target for our companies. We are trying to develop new technology, also thanks to the help of European funds that can support, let's say, our factories in order to have machines that can produce with software, with the new software that can increase the productivity of our machines. And this result then goes also for the machine that we sell on the market, that we propose on the market. And here in this exhibition, there is a wide variety of machines, and you can easily, by walking through Pavilion 21 and 22, see at which point the Italian technology and in general the technology of irrigation has reached in these last years in order to fight against the lack of water. Of course, we need the help. We need the help of European funds for sure. But I think that the most important thing is that we need to explain also to authorities. We need to explain to farmers that don't look only to the investment that you made in agriculture, but look also to the possibility that you have to use less water and optimize your production.
Dr. De Balestrini, Italian industry is famous in the world in the agricultural machinery because Italian farmers have always been saving resources because our land is not like American great land. So we Italians, you industry, are advantaged. And do you have already new solutions for saving water or for other resources too, of course.
Yes, of course. The good thing is that, for example, the market in Italy has been helped by some subvention. For example, there is an important subvention that is what we call the 4.0 law that helps the farmers to purchase irrigation equipments that must have water technology control of the flow of the millimeter of water that we give to the crops. So you only...
We remind that 4.0 is precision agriculture.
Precision agriculture, yes. And so the farmer, yes, can buy the equipment, but can save some cost in purchasing this equipment only if the machine is equipped with a specific technology to control the use of water. So it means that you can easily go to the field, set the parameters, and set also the millimeter of water that you want to give to the crops you are irrigating. And this quantity of water must be, of course, not in the mind of the farmer, but by using also the consultant that we have that can give advice in order to irrigate only when it's necessary and using the right technology for their field, because we have different type of irrigation, but we need the farmer should have enough element to decide which one is the best for its field. I represent one part of irrigation. There are many others type of irrigation, so it's good that there are advantages and opposite, let's say, factors, but the important is that there are consultants able to suggest which is the best way to irrigate.
I have the last question for you both. Not the same, but similar. Professor Toscano, you are focused in your work on Italian situation, but I'm sure you face your colleagues from abroad. So you said that last year we had, last year and now, still now, we have in Italy a really dramatic situation for water. But is it just Italian situation this year, or where do they have about a similar situation as in Italy?
So, in Italy last year, but also this year, because we are in November and we are like in summer, so no rain is a totally crazy climate.
Yes, we are in Bologna, and usually in November we have to use coat.
Exactly.
Now it's not.
Thanks for your question, because just a few months ago in July, I was for a research period in US at Michigan State University in Michigan, and I was able to understand better and their situation that in my opinion, was completely different. Instead, no. They have a lot of fields, of course, hectares and hectares and hectares, usually without irrigation. Really, because the climate, due to the climate, they usually plant a lot of crops without irrigation. Now, in the last 3-4 years, all the farms, most of the farms of the Michigan are changing and are running to create irrigation systems because the climate is totally scattered. The rain is scattering. And this is an opportunity for sure for producers.
Of course.
And of course, now, as the colleague said before, the technology is into the fields. We have a precision agriculture that in the water sector means precision irrigation. Precision irrigation means to provide water at the right level, at the right time, and in the right amount. And to do this, all the machineries now, all the irrigation systems could talk with the IoT, ICT systems able to understand in real time the water content into the soil, the forecasting of the climate, and suggest to the farmers when and which amount provide to crops. If we use these technologies together with the right networks of distribution of water, that is not so simple, we should have a system able to provide the water in the right amount without too many waste of water. But again, we don't have to waste water, but we need water to be used. So, of course, we have to increase the efficiency, and the efficiency could be increased with innovation, with research, with the providers able to create every year new solution, as they did. But again, we have to increase the resilience of the system. For example, in Italy and in Europe, we are debating a lot about the increase of the use of non-conventional water. It means the use of, for example, treated wastewater, able to be used for irrigation in agriculture. And this is a practice used in several countries in the world. In Europe, less at the moment, but now we have a new regulation, European regulation, that forced to use treated wastewater in agriculture. Of course, it has to be done in a safe way. It is possible, of course. And now I know that some producers are building technologies adapted to use this kind of water that has not fresh water but treated wastewater. And treated wastewater means for sure have water availability regardless climate, regardless weather, regardless climate change, because our cities produce treated wastewater every day, every month, and every year. For sure it's a small amount, but increasing resilience means exploit all the amount of water in the right time and in the right place. So resilience at a larger scale and increasing of efficiency at farm level due to innovation. This is probably one of the main roads to follow.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, before asking a question to Mr. De Balestrini, just for who's following us on streaming on the web, here in this TV studio are some journalists from all over the world. So if somebody of you has some questions after his answer, please, we can give you our microphone. And I think they must come here. Yeah, okay. But, Mr. De Balestrini, of course, it's not the same question, but similar, because, of course, you, all the Italian industry in agricultural machinery go and sells all over the world. So, in Europe, you say that a public program for financing the new machinery, the precision agricultural machinery, they helps. But what does happen in American continent, in Far East, in Africa?
Yeah, let's say that Europe is an advanced market, let's say, for irrigation equipment, but consider that Italy is even more advanced, because not all the European countries are following, unfortunately, the same rules or the same subventions. So there are rules, but sometimes they are not respected, or sometimes even farmers in some countries don't know about these rules or about the possibility that they have by acquiring new technology in irrigation. Of course, worldwide, there are a lot of opportunities, because irrigation is a growing sector. Farmers knows that in order to have productivity, they need to irrigate. It's not like maybe 10, 15 years ago when somebody was saying, okay, I wait for the rain. If it doesn't rain, maybe the productivity will be not so high, but I will have my crop and I will save the season, let's say. It's no more like that. Like Professor says, we cannot wait for the rain. Climate change has completely let's say, change, of course, the way also the farmers work. Let's say that we see many examples all over the world where still are used old method of irrigation, so simply by flooding the fields, that means wasting a lot of water. And so our goal, let's say, is to, because we are always on exhibition, we are always on business travels, in order to convince, in order to bring our experience also in these countries. I'm talking about, for example, South America, Central America, where flooding is still present, in order to explain what we use in order to save water, and try to, of course, bring our materials, but also bring some new mentality and some new knowledge. There are other countries like maybe Africa or Asia where irrigation was not so popular until 4 or 5 years ago. So here again, maybe it's not the way they use the water, but here is, let's say, training. So make them understand that by using the right machines, they can increase the yield of their crops, and also share, like it happens many times in Africa, share the machines with different villages in order to have an advantage, a common advantage, let's say.
All right, thank you very much. And before to say hello to our guests and our spectators online on the web, anybody has got any question in the audience here of journalists? Yes, one. I ask you to come here, please. Yes, because of course it's up to me. It's because of me. I didn't ask our colleagues that it was okay. Please, here on the right. Yes, all right. I think it's okay. Thank you. Ula.
Yes.
Ula from
Botswana.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out the figures.
Closer, please. Closer. Okay.
The figures of the EU, how much you got as Italy for the recovery plan. And also, you mentioned Africa. What are you doing? Do you have like programs to educate or train Africans on the water saving initiatives? And then which other? Okay, let me give others to ask, and then I'll come back.
All right. Any other questions? Yes, from Pakistan, our colleague. Our colleague from Pakistan, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me say thanks for this wonderful discussion. Is it
okay, fine? Thank you.
About water, and particularly discussing in the global scenario. I have a couple of questions from both gentlemen. First, you were discussing about the water policy and water infrastructure, and you think that the government can invest more in water infrastructure at the state level. May I know that how the local governments, the district governments, and then the federal government will be helping the country to build infrastructure at all levels, and how they can help the common man and all the responsible people to save more water for the future generation. Secondly, I have another question from the industry, that in Italy, what is the adaptation scenario at the farm level? When we are talking about the climate change adaptation or any adaptation, that has a cost. And earlier, the profit a farmer is making, and you produce a really advanced solution, that must have a cost, a research cost, and whatever. What is the adaptation level and the interest of the adaptation by paying some cost? So I'll be very thankful if you could be.
All right, thank you very much. I think now the answers, and if any other questions afterwards. Please, Professor Toscano.
So, thanks for your questions. So, starting from you, I believe that infrastructures, so the state, the government, the federal government or the national government, it depends the structure of the local levels, has to identify common policies for all the country, and also the investments of big infrastructures, this is my opinion for sure, has to be done with a planning at higher level. We cannot plan big water infrastructures at local level because the water infrastructure, the government of water is really interconnected. It is not an affair of a single cities, a single province, and so on. It's a global level. So the higher level of planning has to be done at the central level, in my opinion, and the investment has to be planned at that level. For sure, the state, the government, together with the researcher, has to also provide strict guidelines for good practices, and this is also to you, the answer for you. And good practices means the example of before. For agriculture, for irrigation, you have to save water as much as possible, for sure, but also use non-conventional water. And the case of Europe is quite interesting because, of course, we know that the possibility, the practice to reuse treated wastewater in agriculture is not a novelty. It's for sure something done since 20 or 30 years ago. But in Europe it was not so followed because there were not a right and the good and a clear regulation. Now European Union spread out a new regulation that is common for all the countries of Europe. And this forced the single countries to apply this regulation. Is just ongoing because the full application will be done in June next year. So, but it is a good example of central practices spread out from all the countries, and under this umbrella, the policies has to be applied in every country. So, in my opinion, is depending, of course, of the single countries, but the government of water has to be planned at the highest level possible. Then the good practices has to be applied at all the levels till the single farmers, the single users, for sure. And in my opinion, also the government has the role to push, to invest money, not only in the construction, in the construction of infrastructure, but also has to fund industry to go for the innovation, and also farmers to apply that innovation to cover the cost for this innovation. It's a chain that has to be followed. Of course, not all the countries start at the same level, so depending on the level in which they are at the moment, but also the education is for sure a very important level in all the countries. Believe me, also in Europe or everywhere. I hope.
Thank you, and now the voice of the industry.
Okay, so Africa. So I reply to, let's say that is a good question because Africa needs a lot of irrigation, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of technology, and you cannot think that, okay, Africa needs irrigation, so we go there, we propose, and everything is solved.
No, it's not so easy.
It's not so easy, unfortunately. What we do in Africa, especially in some countries, we start from a pilot project. I mean, we present one machine, one pump, just to make clear which is the technology behind, how you can increase or optimize the irrigation using technology instead of a simple flooding. And by this way, we convinced more people to invest in this technology, or we convinced the authorities, we convinced the local, let's say, politicians, the local, in order to make laws in order to invest in this sector. because as we know, irrigation has arrived a little bit later compared to tractors, compared to other type of equipment, but now it's time for irrigation, and so we need to, first of all, to show the results. So in order to bring a pilot project, to start from a small scale, and then possibly, and I hope also to upgrade in the following years, in the following season, with more machines or with bigger machines, because we start from small, we demonstrate, and then we upgrade. And regarding the cost of the equipment, that is for sure, if we look now at the price of one machine, whatever is the machine for irrigation, we see that is maybe 40%, 50% more than 3-4 years ago. That because
40%.
Yeah, that's because increase of raw materials, new regulation for engines, for technology, for saving water. We need the computer, we need special equipment. So, like Mr. says, it's difficult maybe for the farmer to have access to big investments for irrigation, and it's true. It's true. So if there are no subvention, if there are no help from the state, if there are no help from the European community or from the Pakistani state, for example, with subventions, it's difficult to have access to this technology. So this is why our activity is related to the possibility that dealers, farmers have to have access to this subvention, because otherwise it becomes difficult to reply to this need, let's say, and this is the situation.
Thanks for answers. And other questions? Yes, our colleague Susanna from...
Okay, I will ask...
close, please, to the mouth, okay, please.
Where you will find the water? Where? You will build some new natural lakes or from river, and now how the farmers pay for using the water? Here in European Union, in Italy.
Just this.
Yes, yes.
It's very simple, the question.
Yes.
It's
Where
not simple, the answer.
You will build some new accumulations, or you using the water from the river.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, from USA, our colleague. Thank you. Martha.
Martha, excuse me, Martha from the USA. I guess what I'm curious about is in the US, you know, very, very different from Africa. We're always looking to add value to our products and value to our crops. So, you know, you have the carbon markets and all of that stuff, and you want to talk about carbon neutrality. So is the technology that you're developing to make irrigation more precise and to be able to more accurately measure the water that's going out and maybe keep track of it with blockchain and such, is that kind of a selling point for producers as well, that they'll be able to take that story back to consumers as well? Or is that too far down the line, we just need everybody to get more precise in their irrigation?
We have time for the last question if you want, or straight to the answers. No other questions, okay, you have time.
So I
Professor
try to answer to question to me. So where we find water, it's a not simple answer to do, but of course we have a lot of possibility to find water. Italy is very rich of water in theory. The problem again are the infrastructures. So yes, here in the northern part of Italy, the governments are talking about new dams. So new artificial lakes. So the storage of water, for the discussion said before, is relevant, because if we will go in situation where rain is scarce, snow is absent, so naturally the flow of the rivers in the irrigation seasons are so low that the abstraction is difficult, or in any case with an amount not sufficient for the water needs of crops. You know that this area, this region, but all the Padana Plain is very specialized and attractive for agriculture and producing of specialized crops. for sure we have to collect the water when water it is and store water. This was done in the southern part of Italy, and usually in the southern part of Europe in the past 20, 30, 40 years, with a huge amount of public investments in building dams, reservoirs. And this is the reason why that areas this year was suffering the drought at the moment.
Southern Italy.
Yes, for sure. Sicily, Sardinia was completely not affected by water stress, both for agriculture as well as for drinking water. This is the reason why the red zones in terms of drought in July, when we were in a full emergency period, the red zones were all the northern and central part of Italy. So the policy again starts thinking about a policy for the storage of water. And for sure, we have to combine storage infrastructures with more efficiency in the use of water. And to do this, we have to combine innovation and, of course, money for investment and infrastructures.
Thank you, Professor Toscano.
Oh, sorry.
How much?
Sorry.
Can you remind the question, please?
Yes, it depends, of course, because
which is the question? Remind, because we don't hear her.
Oh, okay. So how much the water costs for farmers?
Yeah.
Is that right? Is this the question? It depends, because in Italy, usually farmers has not his own water source. We have some external third entities, named irrigation consortia, that are in charge of providing water from the water source. They provide the transport of water. They are in charge of the water distribution to the farmers, and the farmers pay to these irrigation consortia that are irrigation made of farmers, consortia made of farmers themselves, and provide for the maintenance of the infrastructure. So this depends case by case about the cost, that in some cases per volume of water used, in other cases per hectares of irrigated land. But the level of cost for agriculture is not so much. So the state, the government, has to provide funds for the extraordinary maintenance and for the building of new infrastructures. They pay only for the normal maintenance and for the service of distribution of water. This is the typical case in Italy, but it changes country by country for sure.
Okay, thank you. And now, yes, there were some questions to you from USA.
Just to be sure that I understand correctly, about the impact of the new technology was the question.
The ability to track and report how much water you're used to be used as a selling point to the public. Like organic or low carbon or...
Could you resume the question, please?
Yeah, about let's say the impact that the new technology, the possibility to store data about the use, have an effect on the sale and also on the let's say green impact. Let's say, but first of all, let's say new technology in this case in irrigation means the possibility to, of course, to collect data about the use of the machine, to store them, to download them in order to have available. Let's say, data in order also to decide what to do during the season, because by matching the data coming from, let's say, the weather forecast and to match the data with what we have from the machine, we can decide if to irrigate or not, and if irrigate, how many millimeters give to the let's say, to the crop. So the fact to have the possibility to collect data is also important to make decisions in order to use less the machine and so to have less impact in terms of, let's say, environmental, let's say, pollution. So because, of course, our machines can have diesel engines, can have electric motors, so needs power to work. So if by using the data that we download from the machine, we can save working hours, we can save millimeter of water, that for sure is an important factor in order to reduce the environmental pollution, let's say.
All right, I think it's enough, and thanks to our guests, thanks to our colleagues. Another question, just the last one from Botswana, please here. Yes.
How much?
Yes, repeat the question, please.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry. How much money got Italy from EU for this?
Yes. It's a good question.
It's a good question. Globally, I don't remember. For the water infrastructure, 4 to 5 billion euro. Only for water infrastructure.
It's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough.
It's enough. It's enough because we have to spend this money
If used
before
correctly,
2026.
if used correctly also.
So it's enough for this reason. It's not enough globally, but since we are forced to spend this money before 2026, it's enough because.
Just for the water infrastructure?
Yes, it's for
Just
water
for water
infrastructure.
asked the colleague.
The
from
total amount
Pakistan.
of money received for other sectors, I don't remember exactly, but
Okay,
it's a huge
okay.
amount of money.
Yes, it's a lot of money. All right, thanks again. And I see that on the web you can find this debate on a double channel, Italian and English. So thanks to our guests and to our followers from the web.